Hello, good morning, everybody. How are we this morning? All right, let me just hang on a second. How are we this morning? Let me turn my phone down. Oh, what am I doing here? Let me get this under control. Everything's happening. Okay, hang on a sec. Right. Hello. Hi, Daniel. Good to see you. Okay. So, yeah, John from Sparks Paranormal is doing a live at the moment. So he's doing it at the same time. Hey, Kim. Hi, Hannah. I was just chatting to Hannah. So I'll just wait for everyone to pop in. Gosh, I feel like I haven't been live for weeks. Yeah, it's been a bit chaotic, guys. And yeah, I'm getting over a cold. So sorry if I sound a bit stuffed up. Hi, Andrea. Insert evil giggle here. Yes, Hannah. So good Lord. I don't even know how I'm going to get through like everything that I want to talk to my guest for today, who's Steve BRODT. I hope I'm saying that right, Steve. I'm really sorry if I just botched your surname. Steve and I've been following each other for a little while, and I've joined in on a couple of his Instagram lives, which has been fun. But yeah, he's been investigating the paranormal for, I think, 12 plus years, and has quite the following on Instagram. He's also been featured on the Travel Channel, Amazon Prime, and lots and lots of paranormal podcasts. I know the feeling there because I've done quite a few myself. He's also the owner of Haunted Nights Events, where Destination Fear and the crew filmed at. So, yes, I'm going to get him on because, yeah, I just want to get talking to him. So, everyone, welcome, Steve. Hello.
Hello.
Did I botch your surname?
No, it's funny. You said it how everybody says it. It's actually pronounced brat, but everybody says bro. So.
Okay. So where does bro, like, is that like American thing?
It's so German.
German. Oh.
Yeah, my
Okay.
dad's
So is
side's
that
from Poland and Germany.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, and I forgot to say to everybody, especially if you haven't been on one of these what the paranormal type shows before. I chat with my guest, which is Steve today, and then I leave the last half hour for any questions that you guys might have. So if you do have any questions, just if you can leave them until towards the end. So Steve. There is a question that I ask everyone, the very first question that I pretty much ask everyone. How did you get into the paranormal? Like, what was it that sucked you in? Hey, Dan.
When I was young, I was probably 5 years old, and I was actually sleeping down at my grandparents' house. And I woke up in the middle of the night because it felt like something was poking me in the leg. So I kind of woke up and rubbed my eyes. I didn't know if it was time to get up in the morning or whatever. And I looked at the end of the bed, and there was this older woman sitting at the end of the bed with her legs off the side of the bed, and she had a hat on with a veil and like a shawl.
Oh, wow.
And she was turning, poking me with a cane. Didn't recognize her. I had absolutely no idea who she was, so I freaked out because I was so young. My grandma basically told me I had a bad dream and, it never happened and all that kind of stuff. But I remember her. I can still picture her to this day. So probably 10 years after that, I was down there one Christmas, and she had put out an old family photo that I had never seen. And I walked by and I stopped and I said, "Who's this lady?" And she said, "Oh, that's your great-grandmother. She passed away right before you were born." And I said, "That's the lady that was sitting on my bed 10 years ago." And she actually has the hat on with the veil in the photo. And my grandmother said, "Well, that makes sense. You were sleeping on her bed frame that night." So that to me just kind of, sparked the interest in how is that possible? And then all the shows started coming out, and I saw that people actually went out and investigated this stuff and did it. So that kind of got me going into it, and I've been doing it ever since.
Oh, wow. That's incredible. So, like when you told your mum, was it your mum?
It was,
sorry, I'm a bit like.
It was my grandmother's house, and it was her mom, I believe, who I saw.
Oh, okay. So your great grandmother. Oh, wow. That's so obviously she believed you when you told her.
Yeah, she kind of just laughed. It makes sense. You were sleeping on her bed frame that night,
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. So you tell everyone where you are right now and what this room's all about. Because I'm sure everyone's dying to know.
Yeah, so this is what I call my collection room. It's in our house. It's actually kind of, people freak out. It's right down the hall from our bedroom. So there's this bedroom. Yeah, it's right down the hall. So we have this room that I kind of took over. It has my collection of things. I have about 75 Ouija boards now. I have an autopsy table off to my left. There's 3 headstones over there. There's 3 antique wheelchairs in here. There's a jail cell bed.
And this is all in your house.
Yeah, the skeleton. I have a skeleton also, like an actual person, but he's in bad shape. So we're putting him together right now. Then he'll be up here too.
Oh my goodness! Where are you finding all these things? A skeleton. Where on earth did you find that?
So I actually bought the skeleton off of Facebook, believe it or not.
You're kidding.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of groups on Facebook for like oddities and collections and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I stumbled across this guy who said he had one and he thought he was cool at first, but he was just taking up space and he wanted to get rid of him. So I messaged him, and I ended up driving about 4.5 hours each way to go pick him up and bring him back home. But yeah,
wow.
Skippy.
And
his name is Skippy.
Skippy. Is that his real name or what you named him?
That's what the guy told me his name was, so that's what I'm going with.
And did he give you any background of why he happened to have a human skeleton?
So there's these organizations out here called the Oddfellows. So we're kind of like the Freemasons, like a secret society type of thing. And
yeah, I just started following them on IG.
Yes. So
yeah.
So they have these they used to have these ceremonial skeletons for the Oddfellows, where the new members would sit in the dark and stare into the skeleton's eyes for hours until they developed a sense of the best version of themselves. Their idea was that everybody turns into a skeleton after they die. So you have to live your life the best way you possibly can. So they had all these ceremonial skeletons with their different lodges and meeting houses. And this one was just left behind in one of the lodges after it caught on fire. And the guy bought it, found it in there, and he's had it. And then he sold it to me.
All right. Well, that's kind of interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
And have you had a lot of activity from anything in particular in that room?
It's hard. Our house is about 110, actually 112 years old now. So our house is pretty old, and we know of at least one death in our house. So we've had some kind of activity in our house basically since we moved in. So I can't really tie it to anything. I mean, I've had a couple of my Ouija boards move by themselves and fly off the wall when and stuff, but I don't know.
So how long has it taken you to collect, what was it, 75?
Yeah, so I started collecting Ouija boards probably, I think, in the end of 2017. So it's been almost 4 years, but I probably haven't gotten a new board in, man, probably almost a year now. It's been a while since I got one. Their prices are going up like crazy, and I just don't look that much for them anymore. I'm kind of running out of space anyways. So
yeah, they seem to be like they're a very popular thing over in the States. And who was it? I think I might have been talking to Courtney, might have been Amanda, saying how it, we just can't believe that they're marketed for like, what is it, 6 and up or 8 and up?
Yeah,
like in the kids section.
Yeah, there's an actual board that came out probably, I think it was 2008, in a toy store out here, and they got a lot of flack for it, and they actually didn't sell for very long because it was targeted to little girls. It was a pink Ouija board in a pink carrying purse with like little question cards like, will my boyfriend ask me to the dance, and that kind of stuff. So they actually got quite a bit of negative feedback from that board, so they didn't sell for very long, but it was targeted towards younger girls.
Yeah, because I mean, you can't, if you want to get a Ouija board in Australia, you have to go online and order it. You can't just go into a store. Are you a Ouija board user?
I've used it a couple of times because other people wanted to. I don't buy into them. I don't think they. I mean, I think they're no different than any other piece of investigative equipment that we use. If they can manipulate an EMF detector or use their voice on an EVP recorder, a Ouija board should work fine. But my whole thought behind it is there's too much room for human error and human interaction. So if a ghost or a spirit can close a door or move a chair across the room, why does anybody have to be touching the planchette for it to work? Why can't we just leave it on there and say, hey, spell out my name? That kind of thing. So that'd be the only way I would honestly believe them, just because there's so many outside variables that can cause it to move, whether you're trying to or not.
Yes, it's very subjective. It's the same with dowsing rods. Like they're so easily manipulated. And, I spoke about this a couple of weeks ago, but, I actually bought some dowsing rods. So the ones that don't have the spinning handles, because I thought, I want to debunk these things, because like I see investigators using them, and I don't have anything against that. People can use whatever they like, but at the end of the day, all it takes is just like, for you to squeeze one just a little bit tighter than the other, and anyone watching doesn't see that. I did it on a live stream, and no one noticed that I was the one who had made it like completely cross over. And I mean, don't get me wrong, like I actually did have them move on their own, and it was a very strange feeling. But yeah, just too easily manipulated to kind of give any concrete type evidence.
Right.
So I saw on your IG, like, since we're talking about Ouija boards, that you were part of, the making the biggest Ouija board in the world. Yeah. What was that like? And how did that happen?
So that was about 2 years. That was 2 years ago, October of 2019 in Salem, Mass. I'm friends with and I work with a bunch of the guys from the Talking Board Historical Society, which is a historical society for Ouija boards. Not a lot of people know that there is one, but they do a lot of research into the history of Ouija and why it was created and how it was patented and where the name came from and all the different companies and people that got into it. So I'm friends and work with a lot of those guys, and they had messaged me and said, hey, we're going to break the world record for the world's largest Ouija board. We're going to put it together in Salem in October. Do you want to come out and help us? How do you say no to that? I mean, how do you say no to going to Salem in October to put together the world's largest Ouija board? So that was cool. That was a lot of fun. Ripley's Believe It or Not was out there taking pictures and video and everything for their book. We were there for a week. It was put up for 2 or 3 days, and then it was taken down and gone. So we put it up, and a lot of people came out. There was a lot of people could go, and they took pictures on the board. We had actually somebody was getting married right across the street at a hotel, and they saw it. So they came out and did a bunch of wedding pictures on the board and everything. It was cool. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, that's awesome. So how many people did it take to actually push the planchette?
So the planchette actually weighed about 400 pounds. But it was built with on top of like bowling balls as its wheels. So I think you could move it pretty easily. It only took a couple people really to get it kind of sliding around. But one guy, Rick Schreck, hand painted the entire board by himself. One piece by one piece in his garage in New Jersey. And through the winter, it took him about a year to get the whole thing painted and done. And then they drove it up to Salem. And I think there was probably 10 or 15 of us there that put it together that weekend over the course of a couple of days in the pouring rain. It was awful weather, but it was fun. It was a good time.
Oh, yeah, it sounds like it. My goodness. Hello, Courtney. Welcome. Yeah, everyone in chat. Sorry, I'm not ignoring you. Yeah. So, you are the owner of Haunted Nights events. How did that all start? Is that something that you always planned on doing?
Right. So I started investigating in 2009. So almost 13 years ago now. And I started a group here in New York called the South Glens Falls Paranormal Society. And it was a nonprofit group. So we did, residential cases. We did businesses. Like if people thought their office was haunted, they would call us, that kind of stuff. And we never charged, obviously, for any of these. We would just go and investigate. After about a year of doing that, we started doing public ghost hunting events as fundraisers for historic sites. So one historic site in particular that we had worked with a lot, we started doing ghost hunts there and giving them half the money for restorations and that kind of stuff. While the group kept the money for more equipment, travel expenses, and that kind of things. So we started doing those in 2011, and they did really well as fundraising events and stuff like that for 9 years until 2019. I was like, I really enjoy doing the events, and I think it's fun, and I could probably make it my job if I do it the right way. So it was terrible timing. I actually formed the company and started the company in the end of 2019, right before the coronavirus pandemic started. So I launched this big event company where I'm going to be traveling around, going to all these different locations and investigating in groups of people. And about 3 months after I started it, the world shut down, and I couldn't do anything. So that was a tough start.
Frustrating.
It was a little rough, but I was still working full time on the side with a normal job during that time. So I was fine doing my normal job.
Oh, I love that normal job.
Yeah, my normal job, my day job. And then once the pandemic had gotten a little bit under control at that point, and numbers were going down and things were opening back up, I started planning the events and starting the events out. And then I left my normal day job last November. So I've been doing the events now for almost a year full time. We also own a digital marketing company out here. So we do like websites, logos, and stuff like that for people. But we've been working for ourselves for about a year now. And the events have been crazy. It's been a wild year of traveling and locations and meeting new people like Hannah and Courtney who are in the chat. I've met them all through events and through Instagram. So
yes. Hannah messaged me about the Ghostbusters song, how it was quite amusing because you haven't seen Ghostbusters.
Never seen it.
And she's like, you got to give him shit for that.
Yeah. I've never seen Ghostbusters. People can't believe it. I know.
Oh my gosh, what are you doing with your life, Steve?
I know. It's like everybody tells me too that they're going to lock me in a room at one of my events and just make me watch it.
Is there any you're just not interested, or
I just don't watch a lot of movies. Like I don't have a lot of time to watch movies. Like there's so many. Like I've never seen like the Shawshank Redemption, which I've been to the prison where that was filmed in Ohio like 6 times, but I've never seen the movie. So I don't know. People give me crap because there's a whole bunch of movies I've never seen, but I just I don't have time.
Yeah, like I mean, I am saying, you know, like I my 10-year-old, the one that made me run late this morning, you know, forcing me to watch, you know, all the Harry Potter movies again. But, you know, and that had literally been the first time that I'd sat and watched anything remote on TV in a long time. And even then it was like 20 minutes. And then I'm like, all right, dude, sorry. I've got this to do. I've got that to do. Like it's just never ending because, you know, having, you know, running your own
probably
channel.
90% of my life either in the car or in a haunted building. So not a lot of times with movies to be watched.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I just like I'm working part-time potentially. I'm going to be working a second job, and then I've got, you know, running the channel on my own and investigating and all the editing and 50,000 hours of static cam footage, and that's why I ended up doing like you know, trialing to see what, you know, people would like if I did like a static cam marathon. And the very first one that I did, one of my subscribers, Daniel, he's in the chat, spotted a shadow figure. And I'm just like, awesome. See, these are things that I would probably miss because I start watching static cam footage and within like 15 minutes, I'm zoning right out.
Your eyes start to bleed after too long with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so now I like the second one I did, I only did for like 2 hours. So yeah, but yeah, it's much better because there's more, you know, 10 pairs of eyes are better than, you know, one pair.
And that's, you know, like you said with the editing and stuff, I don't know how you guys do it. That's the main reason I don't have like a YouTube channel or anything. I hate editing. I'm terrible at it. I just don't like it. I don't have the patience for it. I'd rather take a picture and post it on Instagram and walk away and be done with it. So
and that's a lot easier. That is a lot easier.
It is.
But I think doing, you know, paranormal, it's probably the most time consuming and one of the top, you know, expenses, like in terms of, you know, YouTube stuff. And yeah, it's a lot of work, and people don't realize like how much goes into, you know, running a channel, behind the scenes, and
it's not as easy as going to record yourself in the dark and then putting it on YouTube. There's a lot more to it than that.
I really wish it was though, and sometimes I do film, like, you know, I'll say, you know, let's go film an uncut for an hour, and you know, if I'm kind of like not having the time to edit and fuss about and stuff, I'll be like, uncut, raw, let's go. Plus, you know, like I want to get out there and be investigating. Hi Nikki, welcome Kate. Daniel says, yeah, it's easier when you're a team. Hi Nicole. So, like, do you still have a team, or is it just you and your partner?
Yes. So the group I started originally is still active here in New York. So we still do residential cases if people reach out to us. They just did one small event at that same historical society we've been doing events at since 2011. We usually go there for once or twice a year to raise them some money. But that's going on here, and then it's myself and my helper there, Dylan, that I usually post about or share about. He's
yes, Dylan, the one that had the car accident.
Idiot. He's an idiot. But
you have to share. You got to share the story.
He's been investigating. So he's been investigating with me since he was 12. He came to.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he came to one of our events with the New York team here when he was 12. His mom used to work with my wife, so that's how he found out about it, and he came to one of the events, and he's been coming ever since. He joined the team about a year or so after that, so he's been investigating for a long time. And then once I started Haunted Nights, I was like, I knew he was the guy to bring on as my helper. You know, I know he knows what he's doing. He knows the equipment. He knows how to run events. He's smart. He's a hardworking kid, and he's reliable. He does a lot of stuff for me. I wouldn't be able to do my events without him. He's a huge, huge help. But yes, he is an idiot, and like Deanna said, he's just sleepy. The kid falls asleep 5 minutes into the car ride anytime we're
sleepy.
That night, I felt bad that night, particularly for the accident too, because I was coming home from events in West Virginia that Dylan couldn't make it to. So he was at the homestead here in Saratoga running some tours for me because he was closer by the time he got done with what he was doing. So he's in the Army Reserves. So he was out at drill a couple hours away. So he got done with drill, drove from drill to the homestead, changed his clothes, and then was there till 4:00 in the morning running that tour for Exploring with Josh on YouTube. He was out there, and so they left at 4 a.m, and it's about almost an hour drive from the homestead back to our houses here, and he made it about 45 minutes and got off the interstate, got off the highway, and he was close to home, so he felt like he was gonna make it. He was fine. He wasn't that tired. So like he turned down the air conditioning, and he turned down the music, and was like, I'm almost home. And then he fell asleep and rolled his car, took out 4 telephone poles, got airborne, just ruined his car. And, you know, I felt terrible because the only reason he was up there is because I asked him to go. So it felt like it was my fault that he was there for that. But he told me, you know, I know. He's like, no, I just should have taken a nap. I should have slept before I left. He's like, it's my fault. Yeah. And I said, I remember asking him, well, are you okay? Like, you're okay from the accident, right? And he said, yeah. And I said, good, because I'm going to beat the hell out of you when I see you.
I'm going to beat the shit out of you.
Yeah. I was like, my God, kid. Like, you can't.
I can't believe how lucky he was. Like,
he walked away from that accident with had one single bruise on his arm. That's all he got. One bruise.
You're joking.
That's it. No broken bones, no pulled muscles, no concussion, no cuts, no scrapes, no stitches. He had a bruise on the back of his arm. That's it.
Wow.
Unreal.
So, you know, like from what I'm seeing in the comments, Dylan does fall asleep quite regularly behind the wheel.
Yeah, there's I take a picture of him sleeping every time we're going somewhere in the car because he falls asleep every time we go somewhere. It's about like let's say we were going to Waverly Hills in Kentucky in March. It's a 12.5-hour drive. He fell asleep 20 minutes into the drive. So I was alone for the whole 12 hours. He's pretty useless in the car, at least at that point.
Is this because he's had no sleep or very little sleep, or is it just car?
He sleeps better in the car than I do at my house. I don't know. The kid sleeps he'd be out cold. He'll snore like he's gone. And so I take a picture of him every time, and I post him on Twitter every single time. The picture is him sleeping. And we get a bunch of people saying, you need to make a calendar next year with each month. It's just a different picture of Dylan sleeping. So that'll probably be happening.
That's an awesome idea.
Everybody's laughing because they all know. There's pictures every time. Every time.
I'm so, you know, glad he's okay.
Oh, I'm glad he's okay. He's just an idiot. He's an idiot.
Bloody hell. So what are the, you've got a few different locations that you've got on your Haunted Nights Events website. How do you want to tell us, you know, what locations are and, you know, how you came to, you know, add them, you know, to your event thing?
So we travel pretty much all over the East and Midwest central area part of the country. Basically anywhere that we can drive, we will go to. For example, we have a place in Vermont that's on there right now for October. It's called Wilson Castle.
Yes,
we've actually been investigating there since 2014. So we've been going there for a long time. And we were one of the very first groups to get in there. I had reached out to them after hearing some stories, and we investigated back in 2014 with the group from New York. And we had some really, really cool activity. It's a beautiful house. I mean, it's an amazing location. And it is active. It's very active. So we started doing some events out there with the nonprofit group back then. And it's just one of those places that we get different activity almost every time we go. So it's fun to go back to it because you never know what you're going to get. And we've been doing events there since 2014. And the paranormal world is just kind of becoming aware of this place within the last probably year or so. It's starting to get notarized and starting to get people, seeing it. And it's great because they're restoring the castle. It's built in the 1800s. They're putting a lot of work and a lot of money into it. And they wouldn't be able to do a lot of this work without the paranormal, the overnights, the events, all that kind of stuff. So it's really cool to see, how much the paranormal community can help out a location like that just by doing investigations and help them save it.
And I think that's really, important too, that, because there are teams, who will charge people, to investigate their house or their business. And, it's just, if you're an investigator, like, in my opinion, why charge? It's, we do this work because we want to help people. Right. And, especially when it comes to, the more historic, landmarks and things like that, we want to be able to help them with either, raising money to restore it or, bring that money in to, keep it going. And
it's one of those things where charging for a residential investigation to me, it never makes sense because first of all, you can't make them perform on command. So how are you going to charge somebody to go sit in their house if the house might not even be haunted? There's 1,000 other reasons that whatever's going on could be happening. It's one of those things, and it's not proven. It doesn't matter even if you catch something, you can't say it's a ghost. You can't say it's a dead person. It's just paranormal. It's something that's not normal. So charging for that kind of stuff doesn't make sense. The cool thing about the events too is, so I'm obviously a smaller company than a lot of these. There's bigger companies here in the US that do the same thing, that have employees all over the place. And they do 15 events every weekend because they just have people everywhere. It's literally just me and Dylan and a few of my helpers where we drive to everything. I'm at every event myself. And I keep and I still keep my prices lower than these bigger companies that have, less travel involved for themselves. So the cool thing about my events is too, that I keep my prices lower and I get investigators to come to the events. A lot of times it's other paranormal investigators that come to my events because paying the $85 for the overnight sleepover at Wilson Castle for my event is cheaper than renting the building out. If you don't have a group of 10 and you only have 2 people, it's going to be a lot more expensive to go investigate that location. I keep my numbers small. I never sell more than 20 tickets. It doesn't matter how big a location is. We just had 4 buildings in a tunnel system in Indiana. I never sold more than 20 tickets. You don't even know people are there because there's such a few number of people. So we do get a lot of actual people that are on teams that might not have 10 people in their group that can go or that want to rent out this location. So it keeps the cost down for them. And it's fun for me because I get to meet other investigators and I get to investigate with people that have new outlooks on things and new questions and new ideas. And it's not a group of people that, I want to get scared, so they're running around the building screaming. We still are able to have good investigations at these events because of the number of people and the kind of people that come to the event. So I always have a blast at them. I think it's a ton of fun.
Yeah, I mean, there's a prison here that's, one of the, probably the most haunted. And, I'm dying to investigate it. But, when I asked them about, doing an investigation there, they quoted me $1,100 for 4 hours. And this place is massive, Steve. So it would take me, 2 hours, like an hour to set up and an hour to pack up. There's just no way.
That's steep. I mean, there's locations over here that are, expensive. Like for example, Waverly Hills is $1,000 for the night, but you get it for 8 hours and you can have 10 people. So it's $100 a person. So it's really not that bad. And the cool thing with an example of Waverly Hills, Yeah, it's $1,000, and that's, steep, but the building is 180,000 square feet. It costs a lot of money
Yeah.
to keep that building running. I first
Mm.
started going there in 2011, so 10 years ago. And I went
Wow.
again. I've investigated there 8 times. So I went again this year,
Wow.
and just
I'm
to be able
so
to see
jealous.
the
I'm
work.
so jealous right now.
Yeah, that's a beautiful location. Well, you'll have to come over and investigate with us when we
Oh,
go.
absolutely.
We
Absolutely.
and it's so cool because like you see the money going to the right place. Like when we pulled
Yes.
in there this year, the building had half the building is heated now, which is unreal.
Oh,
They
wow. That's
have they
awesome.
have brand new bathrooms, like nicer bathrooms than I've seen in pretty much any hotel. They're so nice now.
Wow. That's
And
cool.
when we first started going there wasn't a single window in the entire building. It was all rusted out, broken window frames and everything. They have windows
Mm.
probably in 3/4 of the building now, and brand new parking lot,
Wow.
security lights. I mean, they have put a ton of money into the building, and that's why I don't mind spending the money to go investigate these places, because it's actually going into saving them and preserving them for future use for
Yeah.
investigators and anything else that is going to happen there.
Yeah. So when you're going back to, say, like the Wilson Castle and Waverly Hills, but especially with the, locations that you do your events through, do you find that you're, talking to the same spirits each time, or?
So it's interesting. This year was cool because I actually got to go to a lot of locations for the first time and got to experience new spots. But like with the Wilson Castle, where we've been going for 7 years, we have a pretty good understanding of who's there. We know, the people that we interact with. It's been in the same family since about 1939 or 1940. So
Wow.
the woman that runs it and manages it now actually grew up in the house. It was her house when she was growing up as a kid.
Oh, wow. That's
Her mother
awesome.
passed away there. One of the family friends that used to do work on the house passed away there. Her grandfather is the one that bought it in 1940. He passed away there. So like it's her family that we know is there. Like we interact with her
Yeah.
mom, we interact with her grandfather, we interact with the family friend, and then there's also this separate kind of interaction and level of spirits where it's the first owners from the 1860s that we interact with all the time there, because they had a whole bunch of weird stuff that went on between them and the house being built and all kinds of weird things. So it's like these different pockets of time periods throughout the castle that have the haunting there. And it's cool because we do know like probably 5 or 6 people that we've interacted with on a number of different occasions. And we can go in and kind of just call out to them and see if they're there.
Wow. Because is that where was it Saratoga that you had Destination Fear film at?
Yep. So Destination Fear filmed at the Saratoga County Homestead.
Yeah. And how did you acquire that position?
So this is a building it's about an hour from here. Everybody knows about it. It was the County Tuberculosis Hospital. So back when TB was really bad here, every single county in New York State was required to have a TB hospital. It was one of the things that every single county needed. So this is the one.
Is it very similar to Waverly?
Yeah, it's the same exact style of hospital, just on a smaller scale. So Waverly Hills is 180,000 square feet. The Homestead is roughly 50,000 square feet. So it's like about a third of the size. Saratoga County, especially back then, was a smaller county. It didn't have as big of a population, especially like Waverly Hills, which is right outside of Louisville, which is a major city. So it's a smaller hospital, and it was started in 1914, 1915. It was a TB hospital until 1960, and then it was a nursing home for about 20 years. And then it closed down in 1979, and it's been nothing since. So it's kind of the place that everybody in the area knows about. It's rumored to be haunted. It's been abandoned for so long. It's scary. It's creepy. It's that, it's that spot. So I've known about it since I was in high school. And I never went inside. I would just go up and take pictures of the outside because I had the nonprofit group here. So I felt like if I got arrested for trespassing, that would look terrible. So I didn't go inside. I would always just take pictures from so I would just take pictures from the outside. But I was always fascinated with it. And I used to go to the library and research this place and scan photos, even though I had no connection to it and I couldn't get inside of it. I was just so like amazed by it. and it went up for sale about 2 years ago in an auction. And so I just watched the auction online, and I watched the bidding. And when it ended, I found the guy who won it. He lives in Texas. I messaged him on Facebook, and I said, hey, man, listen, if you're going to tear it down, I just want to come inside first before you tear it down. I want legal permission to go inside. And I want to save some things from the building if you're going to destroy it. I want to keep a couple pieces of this place. And he messaged me back about an hour later and said, hey, I have no plans on tearing it down. I'm flying up there in 2 months. Why don't you meet me at the building and we can walk and talk? So I met him up there in October of 2019. And that was the first time I ever got to go in the building. I was up there for about 6 hours with him, talking about the building and my ideas of how we could do photo tours and ghost hunts and all this cool stuff. And I brought up the ghost hunts, and he kind of looked at me like, dude, nobody does that. Like, nobody cares. Like, nobody's going to do a paranormal thing here. That's not that popular. And I said,
he's not a believer.
No, he had no thought of the paranormal at all when he bought it. He bought it for the land mostly. There was a lot of land with it. I was like, no, I promise you, dude, like it's a thing. And he said, what did he say? He's like, well, listen, I live in Texas. I trust you. I've met you. I've talked to you for 6 hours. You're much closer. You're in charge. You do anything you want up here. You run the tours. You have access to it. He gave the sheriffs my contact information, so I'm cleared to be up there. He said, you're the guy. You run everything. Keep me in the loop. And so I started doing cleanups and photography tours up there a couple of years ago. And then I was actually friends with one of the producers for Destination Fear. And she had reached out to me and said, hey, we're looking for some locations for season 2. Do you know of any? And it was right after I started working up there. And I said, I think I have a spot for you guys that nobody's ever done before. And so the producer came up that March, actually came up about a week before COVID shut everything down. And we walked through the property and kind of, he gave me a list of things that needed to be cleaned up before they could film there for safety reasons. And so we were getting ready to get big groups in there and start cleaning up. And then COVID hit, and they said, you're not allowed to hang out in big groups anymore. So it was me and Dylan by ourselves for every weekend for about 4 months, about 10 hours a day. I even dragged my wife up there a few times and she worked up there all day, a couple days last summer, helping me clean, and some family friends. But
I bet she loved you for that.
She tolerates a lot. She puts up with a lot. She's a trooper. She's a trooper. But we got it cleaned up for the show. They came out and filmed last June, and it premiered last October. And they were a ton of fun. Really, really good group of people. Friendliest people in the world. The producers, the guys on the show, very down to earth, and they're just like they appear on the TV show. They're joking around the whole time. It's just a group of friends having fun. So it was a really cool experience. That was my first time ever being on like TV, actual national TV. That was my first time. So it was cool.
Wow. Like I noticed that like Dakota said that it was like the creepiest or the scariest like investigation they've ever done.
Yeah.
What happened?
So they got up there and they started off. It's funny because actually in the show you don't see, and they don't show you any of the first floor. And you don't see the theater, which is one of the focal points of the building, because they just didn't have anything happen in there, which that happens. So, I mean, in the show, you can actually see them walk towards the theater, and then the next cut is them walking out of the theater. They must have gone in there, did a session, and nothing happened, so it got cut. But they spent a lot of time on the second floor, which is where surgical was, the x-ray room, that kind of stuff, more male and female patient rooms. And they were walking down the hall and they heard these weird bangs and stuff. So they stood right at the entrance to the women's wing where all the women's patient rooms were. And you can hear, they catch it and you can hear a disembodied female voice 2 separate times, very loudly. Almost sounds like they're giggling or laughing. And it scares the crap out of them, of course. They all run. And they actually run into the x-ray room and they crouch down and they're worried that it's actually somebody breaking in, because I told them we do have to let trespass and break in. So they're worried about actual trespassers at that point, and they kind of regain their composure and walk back out into the hallway, and they can hear stuff moving down at the other end, which is the men's wing. So they walk down there and they look towards the end of the hall, towards the solarium, where patients would have been set out for fresh air and sunlight. And Dakota says something like, "Is there anyone down there? Hello." And then he screams and absolutely freaks out and loses his mind because he saw a shadow of a person run across the hallway through the camera, and nobody else could see it. Because when it is dark up there, it's the darkest place I've ever been. There's no street lights. There's no exit signs. We have no power. So like you can't see your hand in front of your face outside the building. So when you're inside, it is dark. So he saw the shadow run across, and they all went back and watched it on the camera screen. And sure enough, you can see what looks like a person, all black, run from right to left across the hall. And now obviously everybody's like, well, it's TV. How do we know it's a thing and it's not fake? The thing that got me the most about the shadow figure is, well, one, we've seen the exact same thing in the building multiple times. Two, it makes no noise at all. And that building has broken brick, dirt, glass. You can't move through there quietly. You're stepping on stuff. It's crunching. It's an abandoned building. It's loud. And again, it is dark. You can't run through there without a light on. You just can't. It's that dark. The way it moves, there's nothing reflective. So there's not a button. There's not a zipper. There's not a shoelace. There's nothing that reflects any sort of light or infrared from the camera. It's just black. The bottom half looks halfway transparent. The shadow figure, when I watched it, because when it premiered in October, that was the first time I saw the footage. I didn't know what they caught. I didn't know what they experienced. I had to wait from June until October to see it. So when I watched it that night, it was me and a couple of my friends, Deanna, who was in the chat earlier. She was up there from Illinois. Her and her husband were up, and we were watching the premiere, and the shadow figure ran across the hallway. And I was like, that's one of the craziest things I've ever seen. So it was bothering me so bad. We got in the car at 11:30 and drove the hour to the building that night. And we stayed up there until like 4 in the morning, and it was like 30 degrees out. It was freezing. And I remember just going up there, and I stood in that hallway, and I just like stared, and I was like, do it again. Like, just do it again. And it wouldn't do it again, but they had a wild night. Chelsea still says it's one of her favorite locations, and there's no place like the homestead, she says. So.
Oh, that's really sweet. Isn't that funny though? Like when we investigate and you know, we get a lot of shit for it. It's like, you know, you ask a spirit to make a noise or to knock or do something, and they do, and then you ask them to do it again and again, and they're just like, they did what you asked them to. Like, why are you asking them to do it again? It's like, you don't understand. Like, that's like epic for us. Like, we want more. So yeah, I think you've just got to be like on an investigation, to experience it.
And I always think it's funny too. Like, I try to put myself in their shoes. If it is, you know, a dead person or whatever from 100 years ago or 80 years ago, like how dumb they must think it is that we're sitting in there and being like, hey, can you knock on the wall? And they're like, okay. And then they do it. And then they're like, okay, that's great. Can you do it again? And they're like, why? Like, you know what I mean? Like, coming from their aspect, like, it's got to look so dumb. Yeah,
I know. They must think that we're absolute idiots. Like,
oh, yeah. Well, I mean, most of the time, like, we probably look like idiots sitting there in the dark. But like, and there's this whole new thing now where like, we've been really digging into it lately. Me, Courtney, Dylan, Mark, and Deanna, like all these people that come to all my events, the idea of, you know, what if sometimes in a building like the homestead or any place like that, like, what if we're the ghosts that we're interacting with? You know, obviously with Nick Groff, actually, I talk to him sometimes, and he's the first one that kind of turned me on to this idea and this theory is, what if we're creating the haunting? So Dylan and I spent all last summer working up there as hard as we could, blood, sweat, and tears. We spent all summer up there. So the idea behind, let's say, a residual haunting is just energy that's trapped in a building playing itself over and over again. Why does like that person have to be dead? Why can't it just be the energy playing back? Me and Dylan put hundreds of hours of energy and emotion into that building
wow.
last year. Why can't we be
Yeah.
residual haunting this year already? Who says it takes 50 years? Why can't it take 10 minutes? I don't know.
That's really like gonna get me thinking now.
It hurts
like,
my head. It hurts
yeah.
my head.
Oh my gosh.
Me and Courtney and Dylan
when
and Mark
you
and Deanna
think
stood
too
in.
much, yeah, like when you start really like thinking, you just, oh my gosh.
Yeah,
a whole black hole opens.
I know we dug into it last weekend in Indiana, and we're like, again, what if? Because we were there for 3 nights in a row. So
yeah.
Who says that the haunting takes X amount of time to happen? What if by Saturday night we're standing in this one place and we're interacting and we're seeing shadows or hearing voices or footsteps, and it's just us from Thursday night?
Oh my gosh, that's so trippy, Steve. Oh
right?
my
gosh.
It's
the most bizarre thing. It opens up so many more possibilities.
It does. But like, what if, like as you're talking about that amongst your group, you get like the spirit box going and you start interacting with your energy. Like, that is insane.
Because
good Lord, my brain's going to explode.
There's the theory about doppelganger. What if it's not a doppelganger? What if it's just the residual haunting from last week when you were in the building working or investigating?
Yes. Oh my gosh.
What if, obviously when people set up like their Mel meters and their REM pods, they go over and be like, hey, all you have to do is touch it for it to go off. So they smack it and it goes off. What if when it goes off one night, it's just you from the last time you were there showing the spirits how it was going off? You know what I mean? Like, it's just.
Hang on, didn't Courtney say during like a double SS session, didn't she say doppelganger?
Yeah. She said she either got her voice or somebody else's voice. But we've had investigations where people have come running down and said, Steve, we just caught your voice on a voice recorder up here. Or Steve, we heard your voice and heard you walking up the stairs. And I'm like, hey, I've been down here for the last hour. You know what I mean? But what if it's just residual from the last time I was there? Who knows? But it makes my head hurt.
It's making my head hurt. That's
we get talking about it sometimes. I'm like, I just want it to be as simple as the person died and they're still here and I can talk to them. Like, that's just way easier.
Good Lord. Now I'm like going to be in my head when I'm investigating. Holy cow. That is like
another one. Nicole's come to a bunch of events this year and we talk about it every time now. And she's like, it's hurting my head. And that's the thing. Like, I always bring it up in investigations and everybody's like, please shut up. You're making my head hurt.
Oh my gosh. And imagine like, having a few drinks and like talking about things like that. You'd just be like, whoa.
You just go off on a tangent. And that's what happens. So the way that it got brought to my attention, I was talking to Nick Groff one time and he was on, Ghost Adventures, whatever, for 20 years.
Yeah.
And so he told me about a story where they were investigating at the Washoe Club in Virginia City, Nevada. And it was 4 Ghost Adventures, and they caught his name on the voice recorder, a spirit whispering Nick Groff. He said, we heard it at the time. We thought it was pretty crazy, awesome, good EVP. He said, I went back there about 12 years later for an event, nothing to do with Ghost Adventures. And he said, I walked into that room where we caught it, and I remembered catching it. He said, so when I remembered it, out loud, I said, Nick Groff. And he said, what if somehow 12 years ago, I caught my own voice, just reliving that moment, like a time slip thing. And I was like, please stop. You're hurting my head.
Oh my gosh. That's even more trippy.
Right? Okay. Just like a weird time
slip.
And the only reason he caught it is because he went back and said it out loud because he remembers catching it.
Oh my gosh.
It's the weirdest thing.
What are you doing to me?
It's the weirdest thing.
Holy cow.
Oh, he told me that. I was
really
like, dude,
strange.
I was like, I've had like 2 beers. You're hurting my head. You're confusing me. Like, I just want it to be dead people. It's so much easier.
But it's like, it's such a good theory.
Right? It's
like,
genius. He told me that. And I was like, dude. And that's the cool thing about him. He's not.
It should be called the Nick Groff theory.
Right. That's the cool thing. He's not one of those people that is like, oh, I'm on TV. I know everything. He's like, he really genuinely cares and he looks into theories and he researches stuff and he comes up with new ideas like that. And he's so down to earth to talk theories for like hours with, but he says stuff like that. And I'm like, stop it. You're hurting my head.
Oh, so has he investigated at any of your locations while you've been running them?
He has not investigated with me yet. He was at Ouijazilla in Salem a couple years ago. He was out there. He's friends with a bunch of those guys. He's planning to come to the homestead at some point for his new Deathwalker series. We worked with him a little bit.
That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, he'd have a good time out there. We worked with him a little bit a couple years ago when we did Madhouse at Madison Seminary for Amazon. We also released it on VidiSpace, where Nick was the owner and person running that with Elizabeth Saint. So we worked him a little bit then, and that's kind of where I got introduced to him and started talking to him and stuff like that.
Oh, wow. And recently you had Sam and Colby.
Yeah.
And was it Seth and Josh?
Yep, Seth and Josh, yeah. Sam and Colby, Cinematic Seth, and Exploring with Josh. They were all out. They did Wilson Castle one night, and then they did the homestead the next night. And then Josh actually went back to the homestead like the following week.
And how did they go? Did Sam and Colby start running?
It was funny because when their manager contacted me, and I had no idea who they were. I didn't. I don't watch movies. I don't watch a lot of YouTube. I didn't know who they were. And they were this big thing. I didn't know. So I was like, whatever. Yeah, come on out. And so they came out, and they were really, really cool. Very down to earth.
So I get that vibe off them.
You can tell that they actually genuinely are interested. Off camera, they were asking questions about theory and why do you think this happens, or who do you think this is? They got freaked out a couple times. They definitely were uncomfortable a couple different times. We had a lot of really great activity, but they were a lot of fun, and we are planning to do a lot more with them in the future. So it'll be fun.
Oh, that would be good. Yeah, because obviously, being big on YouTube and haunted hasn't always been their thing,
right?
So, there's a lot of people who, think that it's just put on for camera.
Right. And that was my biggest concern.
Fabricated, fabricated evidence and things like that. So, do you, with I guess, teams like that, do you have a talk with them and say, look, we don't want this going on and so on?
So before they came out, I didn't really know who they were, so I went on and watched a couple of their videos to see how they investigated, how they approached things. I didn't know if they were going to come out and make a joke of it or scream and run, because I had no idea. So I watched their videos.
They do scream and run a lot, but
they do. And I watched their videos. I was like, all right, they seem pretty down to earth, whatever. So they came out, and the one thing I told their manager before they came was, listen, the only stipulation is me and Dylan are in the entire episode. We're not leaving you guys alone. It's a safety thing, first of all, and it's a reputation thing. I don't want anything going on that I don't agree with. All of the equipment that was used in the videos was my equipment, so I know they didn't tamper with anything. I brought out my own stuff. I was with them from start to finish, both nights. And they everything that happened. It was a couple really, really wild nights, actually. That was one of the most active nights we've had at Wilson Castle in a long time. It was they hit both those buildings on really good nights. And I don't know if it has to do with their energy. They're both very high energy. All four of them are. Seth, Josh, and Sam.
Oh my gosh.
Very, very high energy. So I don't know if that had something to do with it, but we had some crazy, crazy active nights, both nights.
And I think, I don't think they're aware of it, but I think Sam and Colby are both quite sensitive too to spirits, because they seem to get activity going wherever they go. It just seems to happen for them.
They put off a good vibe. All four of them do. They're very easy to talk to, very easy to get along with. So if the paranormal and the spirits there are intelligent and know that, and they can pick up on that, they might think, hey, these guys are going to be the ones to talk to. They're easy to get along with. I personally, if I was a ghost, I would have a blast scaring people, like we did in the video. So when things get spooky, I think they're just having fun with us half the time.
Yeah. So, because we're there, like, because I watched I haven't watched the actual episodes, but I watched, like, the little intro thing. And because I know you do get a lot of people, trying to break in, trespass, and all that kind of stuff. Did you have, like, some people come in that night that you guys got to scare the shit out of?
So the funny thing is, like, the trespassing has gone down a lot in the last 2 years since we started working up there, which is good because the word of mouth is getting out that, we're doing tours now, so you can come in legally and, like, don't break in anymore. But occasionally we'll still get a couple cars a day or whatever, whenever we're up there. So that was their thing that night. They were like, listen, we really want to scare a group of kids. Like, we would really, really want to. If that happens, can we hide and scare them and not kick them out, like, out in the parking lot? And I said, listen.
Yeah, because these are the guys that, have broken and trespassed, like, countless times, like, and been on the run and bolting. And
so they were like, listen, can we let them at least get up to the door so we can scare them? I said, listen, you know what? I go, for your video, if people come tonight, we can scare them. I said, but it was like a Tuesday night. It wasn't a weekend. I said, it's unlikely that people are going to come. It's just not a busy night for trespassing. People come on Fridays and Saturdays. And they're like, all right, whatever. And we did the whole night. And we were getting ready to leave. They were doing their, like, sign-off video in the lobby. And headlights came up the road. And I was like, there's a car. And they're like, oh. So they turned off all their lights and, like, went into, like, we crept from the first floor down the hallway and downstairs, pitch black, no lights. And we lost Colby. Me and Sam ended up losing Colby, Seth, Josh, and Dylan because we were walking faster than them and they couldn't see us. So we got downstairs and waited for him. And then the kids started to come in the front door. So we had to go back upstairs without any lights on. And they're walking and they're shining flashlights through the windows. So we're the ones ducking the flashlights, even though we're the ones that are supposed to be there. And, like, we're ducking all these flashlights, and we got right up to the window. They were like 5 feet from us on the front porch. And one guy shined his light through the crack in the door and he could see somebody's feet. So that guy started panicking. He's like, there's feet, there's people. And then Sam jumped out around the corner and screamed and scared the crap out of all of them. So it was perfect. It was good.
Did they run screaming?
Oh yeah, they like half of them left the poor kid that was up there. They started running right away, and, like, that kid just was like, "What's wrong with you guys?" Like, he jumped so bad, and, like, so we kicked him out or whatever, told him they couldn't be there, and then Sam's like, "Hey, don't forget to subscribe," and they're like, "To who?" And he's like, "Sam and Colby." And they're like, "Wait a minute, Sam and Colby? We watch you guys all the time." And they're like, "Yeah, well, you just got kicked out of here by us." So leave. It was funny. It was a good ending to the video.
Oh gosh, that's freaking hilarious. I'm gonna have to watch it. Oh my goodness, far out. So everyone in the chat, because the time. If you guys do have any questions for Steve, just pop them in the chat, or if you want to share some stories about Steve. Wink, Courtney, Hannah, Nicole.
Oh boy. Yeah. I just saw Courtney last weekend. We were down in Indiana. We had another good weekend down there.
Yes, I noticed.
We had a lot of fun there, and it's a really cool place. Nicole I saw in West Virginia. Hannah I saw in West Virginia. They'll both. I know Hannah's coming to Wilson Castle in Vermont in October. Courtney always gives me crap because she says I've brought everybody to Wilson Castle except for her. So she's like, "Oh, that's the one place you bring everybody except for me. That's cool."
Poor Courtney.
So we always rag on her about it and be like, "Oh yeah, Wilson Castle. That one time you were there," because she was never there. And she's coming this October. Though. She'll be out there.
You're just gonna have to break in, huh? You're just
she'll have to sneak in.
I love Courtney. She's awesome.
She is. She's
so lovely, down to earth.
I only met her like in February, so I've only known Courtney. I've known Courtney less than a year, and we've investigated, a ton of times together this year already. We've done a historic place in Western New York. We've done the Homestead. We've done Waverly Hills. We've done Indiana State. We've done Fairfield County Infirmary, Madison Seminary. We've been all over the place. So
she said, "Oh, he'll be seeing me for a whole week." I know, because she had on her IG story, riding in the back of the truck, doing laps, and I'm just like,
yeah, that was like that. So that was,
you need to stop posting this shit, because like I can't be there. I'm trapped on
like
this island's
night,
prison until I died.
I was on the tour during that part Saturday night, and they had all done the tour the night before, so they were kind of just like riding around taking pictures and stuff. And I was standing in the basement of one of the buildings on the tours, and I look out the window and I just see the truck zip by with like Courtney, Jill, and Deanna, and like their other friends in the back of it. And I was like, "What are they doing? Like, what is going on?" Yeah. Idiots, wild all over.
No, she cracks me up, and I love that she's just her. Like there's like so many people, like females in particular on IG that just she's one of the real ones. So.
And that's the other cool thing, like with the events and stuff. Like I've met Hannah, Courtney, Nicole, all these people, Gina, who's in here. Like these are all people I wouldn't really know without the paranormal. And I've made a ton of friends. I have friends all over the country now.
Yes.
And that's how we investigated Waverly Hills. So this year when we did Waverly Hills, I booked it for 2 nights. The first night was a bunch of friends from like Madhouse and like Gateway from Tennessee and all these guys I've known for a long time. And then the second night, I was like, I'm just going to book 2 nights. And I put it on my Instagram and I said, I have Waverly Hills reserved for this night. The first 10 people to send me their $100 can come. I don't care who you are. So I ended up meeting like 9 random people from all across the country that we all met together at Waverly Hills. That was the first time a lot of us had ever met. And we investigated Waverly. And it was a ton of fun. It was a really, really good time.
Yeah. Awesome. What did you say? Indiana was terrifying. So was the homestead.
Oh,
yeah, because Courtney's been helping you, clean up the homestead as well.
Yeah, she's been out to the homestead a few times for cleanups, and it's a drive for her. It's like 4 hours, 4.5 supposed to be, but Courtney speeds, so she gets here faster.
Yeah,
but yeah, she's
sounds like me.
She's come out and helped a couple times. We did a couple investigations out there. I'm sure she's coming out in October. We're going to be doing some stuff out there. We're going to do like horror movie nights out there. So we're going to watch scary movies in the homestead in October.
That'll be good.
So that'll be fun.
That'd be awesome. Yeah. So have you ever had anyone book in the overnight and leave before morning?
So at certain locations we have. Sometimes it's too much for people. Other times people get tired and leave. Like we had Indiana until 6 o'clock in the morning, and not a lot of people made it till 6 o'clock in the morning. But we've had people leave Madison because it's a little bit too much at certain times. Fairfield has freaked some people out. Everywhere else, people have done really well. Waverly got a hold of some people and had some emotional stuff where people had to take some breaks for a while. But a lot of people just, if they do get affected like that, they step outside for a little bit, regain composure, take a break, and then get back in there. Yeah. So I haven't had anybody I was going to say cry, but we've had people cry at events. We haven't had anybody leave too bad, like been super scared. So that's good.
Liz is asking, do you ever play certain music and notice if there is a change in activity?
Yes. So we've done that at Wilson Castle in the ballroom. A spin-off of that we did in Indiana last weekend. So we were in the nursing home portion of the complex. There's like 4 buildings there. A couple of them are connected by walkways and tunnels. So we were in the nursing home section where obviously a lot of people passed away from old age and other stuff like that during the nursing home years. And so what we did was we went into a couple of patient rooms and we tried a couple different things. One of the patient rooms, we went on YouTube and we found a heart rate monitor sound effect that's playing, and it beeps and it beeps and then it codes. So it flatlines. So we all went completely pitch black, went quiet, and we let this thing play for like 2.5 minutes, just echoing down these dark hallways, which was super creepy. Just to see if that would, stir up any type of activity of people, nurses hearing the coding and the flatlining or the heart rate monitor and then rush to the room to try to help, because it probably happened every single day there. And we got some really good stuff. The feeling changed, shadows, footsteps. We got EVPs. We played the sounds of just like normal hospital sounds by the nurses station. So like the intercom system calling for doctors, people shuffling papers, that kind of stuff.
That's really good idea.
Happening in that area, we did that a couple of times, and it seemed to really work. So that was cool.
Yeah. No, that is cool. What else have we got? Didn't I say something about flatline in the Estes?
Yeah, Courtney's always funny when she does Estes. I always make Courtney do Estes sessions because she's good at
I
them.
love how you guys took a picture of it.
Yeah, the thumbs up. That was I always mess with her too.
Yeah.
Because like the first time I did it, I was like, that was fun. And then I walked back in and I was like, no, I got to go get everybody else. So like, I went out and told everybody else to come in because she's got no idea. We're all standing there like giving thumbs up, making fun of her and stuff. I always feel bad because like I walk by Courtney while she's doing it, and like she'll be like, I just felt a really cold breeze, and I'm like, sorry, that was me. Like for the camera, I'm like, that was me, so she doesn't freak out later. And she did. She said something about flatlining during the Estes session, and her and Deanna's husband Mark were both under at the same time, and they were almost arguing about pills and about what they had to do. It was very interesting. The things they were saying were lining up with each other, like they were having a conversation. It was weird.
Yeah, I've done doubles with Jane, who wasn't able to make it today, and yeah, like at times we're having a full-blown conversation with each other. It's weird. And and I think too, because we link so well together, that whenever we did a double sensory, like we would have, not the whole thing, but we'd have like patches of us like back and forth. And yeah,
we tried.
It's crazy.
A super weird thing a couple weeks ago when Courtney was out here. We were at the homestead. So Courtney, Dylan, and I were at the homestead, and Hannah, who was in here, was doing an investigation. She lives in Washington State, the opposite side of the country, as far away as you can be. And so she was under. So we went live on Instagram, both of us, and Hannah joined my live. Courtney was under in the homestead. Hannah was under in the state of Washington. And we were at, and it was unbelievable. Like they sat down.
I can't believe you're telling me this right now, because Jane and I are planning on doing the same thing.
It was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. Like we sat down to start it, and the first thing I said was, can you guys say hi to each other? And Courtney goes, how are you? And Hannah goes, hi, right up, like immediately, right away.
Oh my gosh.
And then it was like back and forth. They were talking about things like, they kept both saying again. Somebody, I think Hannah said, or Courtney said, I there's too many people. And Hannah said, too many or something like that. And then they hadn't said a number the whole time. And I said, okay, I want you guys to both give me a number. And they both said something weird, like numbers, like 9 and 4 or something. And Dylan said, no, I want you guys to count down. As soon as he said that, Courtney said 8 and Hannah said 7. And I said, okay, can you guys give me a color? I want you both to give me a color. Hannah goes, orange. And Courtney goes, I think I just heard orange. But like, I mean, bizarre things on opposite sides of the country. It was a wild, like mind blown. I kept standing up and just being like, you can hear me. I'm like, how? Like, I don't even know how it's possible. It doesn't make sense.
I mean, because, energy is just constantly moving and fluid. It's just, I don't know. But however it is on the other side, it's like, there's this homestead that, I've been, I've done a few live investigations at. And, a couple of weeks ago, I went there with one of my team members, and, we went down to the barn in the back, and I had, this full-on spirit, like, just come at me. And, like, I'm, I've got the blindfold on, I've got my eyes closed, but I could see, like, shadowing just, like, on my left side, and I felt like it was something that just, like, rushed at me. But, this was not a spirit who was related to the family in any way. And so, I was saying to Adam after we finished, I said, like, because there's a younger female spirit there, and she, like her father, who's John, he never seems to let her come through, like whether it's spirit box or any kind of interaction. And with what this other spirit was doing, I said to Adam, like, what if, like, her dad's protecting her from, this other spirit, And he said, well, yeah, but if they're not from the same family. And I'm like, yeah, but if they're all on the other side and they're all like, you know, linked to this land, this house, then surely they're aware of each other. You know, it's just the more you think about stuff, the, you know, like you always end up with more freaking questions than answers.
And that's why, like, people ask, like, oh, like, you know, what do you think now after doing this for so long? I'm like, I have no idea. I'm more confused now than when I started. I got no idea. It's like, we'll be in a spot and, you know, we're interacting and people are always like, well, I would think it'd be more active during the day when the hospital was up during operation. And I said, well, yeah, that would make sense if you know for a fact that they follow the same timeline as us. How do we know it's not 2 o'clock in the afternoon for them when it's 5 o'clock in the morning for us? We don't know how it works. So who knows? You know, who knows?
And
there's no good way to do it.
Horogenetics is asking me, like, what's the best time to investigate if you want to catch something on camera? And what is the best thing you have caught on camera to add to that?
I will say probably one of the coolest things we caught on camera. First of all, the time I don't think matters. I think you just have to be in the right spot at the right time with the camera pointed in the right direction. I don't think it matters if it's 8 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning or noon. I've had stuff happen to me every hour of the day, so it doesn't really matter. I don't think.
I know the whole 3 a.m. thing.
Because again, how do you know it's 3 a.m. to them? How do you know it's not 2 in the afternoon?
Exactly.
I would say the coolest thing we've probably caught on camera in a while, at least, would be Waverly Hills 2019. I was there with my group from New York, and I was down like changing out batteries for a handheld camera, and the rest of the group was up on the 5th floor with one other investigator kind of wandering around the 2nd floor with me waiting. And so I went and changed batteries, and I came out with a camera to go up and record, and he had a camera in his hand. And I said, oh, I didn't know you had a camera. We don't need both up there. I'm going to set this one down here on this ball. And there was a ball in the hallway with like spikes on it. And I put it right on top of an X that was in the middle of the hall. Put the camera down, recorded it, walked away. We went from the 2nd floor to the 5th floor. Waverly Hills is brick and concrete, not wood. So you're not creaking floors, stairs, anything like that. We were 3 floors above it. We were up there for probably 2 hours, hour and 45 minutes. So the camera records an hour and 26 minutes. The ball doesn't move. It doesn't so much as rock, nothing. Doesn't move at all. About an hour and 30 minutes into the video, the ball just takes off and rolls away out of frame by itself. The camera died about 4 minutes later. So that was pretty bizarre because there was nobody remotely close to it, and it hadn't even moved.
Jimmy? Is it Jimmy?
Tim. So there's a little boy named Timmy.
Timmy.
Yeah. So he's supposed to be on the 4th floor. We got this on the 2nd floor. But I mean, again, you don't know if he can move throughout the building, or you know what I mean, or. For all I know, I put the ball in the middle of the hallway, and it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and some nurse walking down kicked it because she didn't see it sitting there. You know what I mean? Like, I might have tripped some poor nurse that was like trying to go do her job. I don't.
Yeah.
But it was bizarre. It was bizarre.
Yeah, like we, you know, put before we, you know, trekked all the way out to the barn, we put my camera down. And just pointed it, you know, in the lounge where, you know, everyone was like, yeah, put it in the lounge, put it in the lounge. While I was just setting up some more gear to take out the back. And, you know, we go back to the camera and I'm just like, oh, so did anything happen? Was there any noises or anything? Because I've caught like, you know, a mist, like, you know, that was like a just oval shape. Just like slowly move across the floor, and I've caught like a black mist, a shadow, like a you know, second white mist.
Right.
And that was like we'd only filmed, like we'd gone there literally to film like an uncut, so we're only there for like an hour and a half. So I was like flabbergasted at like all this shit that I'd caught on camera. But yeah, like Adam had gone back to watch part of the live stream. And you can hear like this gut-wrenching noise. Like it's so loud, like it's right next to the camera. And Adam and I weren't moving at this time. Obviously no one could see that we weren't moving. But, and, it is on, quite a busy road. So you've got, the odd car going past, but it was like inside. And I said to Ad, because he sent me the timestamp. He's like, "What the hell is this?" And I listened to it, and I'm just like, "What the frick?" I said, "That's not me or you."
Right.
I said, like we might have, moved a tripod or something, but nothing to make that kind of noise.
Yeah, right.
And we didn't hear anything either. So it always fascinates me when you get, those kind of EVP type, whether it's just a noise or a spirit saying something, and it's so clear and loud, but you don't hear it with your own ears.
And that's another reason I love doing the Instagram lives, because we've had things on Instagram live that the people watching could hear that we didn't hear. So it's almost like an EVP in real time, which is bizarre. I hadn't ever really thought about it. But we had the camera set up at the homestead. It was just me and Dylan. And we had the camera set up on the homestead on the theater pointing out. We were probably like 10, 15 feet from the camera. And we're just talking about basically where we were going to go next or whatever we were going to do. And so we finished that conversation. And I went back over to the camera and picked it up. And everybody's commenting like, who's the woman? Who said hello? What's the woman's voice? And I looked at him and I was like, "Did you hear anything?" He said, "No, like I didn't hear anything at all." And I said,
"It wasn't Dylan's voice cracking."
He already hit puberty like a couple years ago. So he's getting there now. But like one of the people watching was actually screen recording the live, and she sent me the video. And clear as day, there's a female voice going hello, and we didn't hear it at all, which was bizarre. I thought that was super cool. And then Courtney says the dragging, which was like probably the worst noise I've ever heard in my entire life. We thought we were gonna die.
Yeah, that was okay. So I listened to that, and I'm just like, are they talking about that noise? Is that what they're talking about? Like, I must have watched it and listened to it that many times, and when I'm just like listening to it, I'm just like, yeah, that's definitely not them. Like, what the F is that?
Yeah, that was like full panic. Like, I was like,
that was loud.
My first thought was, okay, maybe it's an animal. And I'm like, I don't really want to get bit by whatever that is because it doesn't sound friendly. So I was like, it's funny. And like the whole
kind of cryptid or humanoid.
Yeah, like what I mean, like what is in there? And like in the video, you can see Courtney's looking at me like waiting for an explanation, like why is this happening? And like, is it an animal? And I'm looking at her just as confused. And then she got terrified. And I was I remember I was like, be quiet. Like, let's back out of here just in case it's an animal. So we backed out and we went and got in the car and we drove around. None of the motion lights out back had been triggered. All the doors were still boarded up. It was in the room with us. It moved down the hallway with us. It got closer. And I mean, it was so loud. It happened like probably 6 or 7 times. And
you didn't shine? You didn't shine the torch or anything?
So like Dylan and I went back up the next day for tours. And we were looking in that area, seeing if there was anything that had fallen or if there was an animal in there or something had been dragged or if there was something that could have made that noise. There's absolutely nothing. Like it just sounded like something getting dragged across the cement floor. There was nothing in there. And it happened like 6 or 7 times.
Yeah, it was loud.
It was so loud. Like, and the video doesn't even do it justice. Like, it was
you're
so
kidding.
loud in that room. It was one of those things that like made all the hair on your arm stand up. Like, what is this? I'm uncomfortable. And I've spent so many hours in that building. Like I've been up there and I've never been like scared or worried. I go up by myself. I do solos, whatever. That's fine. I was uncomfortable in that situation. I was like, I do not like whatever this is. I think we're going let's go to bed.
Yeah. Do you sense like when there's like good, bad energy around normally?
People always ask me, like, are you sensitive or anything like that? And I always say I'm about as sensitive as a rock. Like, I don't pick up anything at all. Like, I could stand in a room. There could be, like, Satan himself breathing on my neck. And I'd be like, there's nothing in here. This sucks. Like, I don't – unless stuff starts happening, like, I really don't pick up on stuff. I mean, you can tell sometimes when you go in a room, like, if a vibe feels a little bit off. But I'm not somebody that can walk in a room and be like, oh, I feel like there's a woman in here and she's angry with us, or you know what I mean? I walk in and I'm like, this is an empty room. Let's see if there's a dead person in here who wants to talk. You know what I mean? Like that's how I am.
Because there's, you know, like I found that a lot of people who do paranormal, you know, are either sensitive or, you know, they've got, you know, clairaudience or clairvoyance and that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's funny. I'm about as sensitive as a rock.
That's about it. I'm like, everybody's like, well, don't you get creeped out? I'm like, I mean, I get freaked out sometimes when weird stuff happens, but like if I walk into a room and it feels creepy, I'm like, it's probably creepy because the building's creepy. You know what I mean? Like I don't attribute it to anything. I do think though, like the more you investigate and the more you put yourself in those situations, the more your body will pick up on that kind of stuff. Even if you're not sensitive or psychic, it'll pick up on it without you even knowing. I think it just gets used to it.
Yeah. Have you ever like had anything like physically hurt you, like scratch or?
Yeah. So I guess this would be a cool time to say it. I will be on Discovery Plus again later this year. Probably the Travel Channel for the show called A Haunting. So it's one of the longest running shows. It's just basically like you tell your story about an investigation and they reenact it. It's cool because
I think I've seen a show like that. Yeah.
It's a show I've like grown up watching. It's been on since 2002. So to be able to be on it is going to be really, really cool. And we're talking about a case here in New York, down about an hour from here where I used to live and my wife and I used to live and her mother lived down in that area as well. We actually investigated her mother's house. It was an old like Victorian home from the late 1800s, early 1900s. And she was having weird stuff happen and like weird dreams and seeing shadows. And like we had obviously gone there a bunch for like dinners and stuff. It was her mom's house. And we had some weird things happening, but we didn't really put a lot into it. And then her mom started saying like, hey, more and more stuff's happening. It's not always the greatest thing. So we're like, well, why don't we come in with the group and we'll investigate? And we went in and we got way more than we thought we were going to get. We had 2 investigators, myself and another guy, get scratched within probably 20 minutes of each other.
Wow.
And his scratches were super weird too, because he got scratched in the middle of his back while he was laying on his back on the bed. He was laying down. And he got scratched. We had all kinds of stuff, EVPs, light anomalies, millimeters going off. So it was really cool. So that's one of the times I've been scratched. So that'll be coming out some point later this year. I have no idea when, but.
Wow. Did you, find out like who had scratched you?
So we almost put together this narrative ourselves based on like the feelings that we were getting, the interaction, the EVPs, what her mom had experienced, what her husband at the time had experienced, all this stuff. It seems like the house at some point had a couple in there, husband and wife or whatever, that had some sort of issues. Again, this isn't documented. This is just kind of the theory we came up with based on everything we experienced, whether he was abusive or she was having an affair or whatever it was. Something bad happened in the house and there's a lot of negative energy focused on couples and happiness in the house. And it targets that in the house. And it targets men in the house. Again, me and the other guy that got scratched, 2 guys. And it shows different things to women to try to scare them. And so that's kind of where we kind of put it all together. But as far as like figuring it out, no, they actually ended up moving out of the house and selling it. So whoever's there now, good luck, I guess. I don't know.
Oh gosh. Do you interact with the spirits much at your house?
They only really bother my wife and my dog when they wake them up in the middle of the night. She doesn't care. She's so used to it. She's like, just don't bother me while I'm sleeping. I'd rather sleep.
Is she a believer?
What's that?
Is she a believer?
Oh yeah, she's come on investigations. She's been to Waverly a bunch with me and stuff. But cool. We were here. Me and Dylan were at the homestead probably a month or 2 ago, and we were by ourselves up there investigating. And we walked out into the one hallway, and we were hearing really weird like shuffling and stuff behind us, and like voices. And the building had a creepier feeling that night. It just felt kind of weird, and I was like, I feel like something big is about to happen. Like we're gonna see something, or something's gonna get moved. Like something's crazy, I hope, is going to happen, because like everything that's leading up to it. And we're standing there staring down this hallway, and my phone started ringing. So I took my phone out, and it was my wife Sydney calling me, and she's like, what are you guys doing? I said, we're investigating. She's like, no, I know, but like, are you guys doing something stupid? I said, no, like, we're not conjuring anything. We're just standing here. Why? And she said, well, one of your Ouija boards just flew off the wall at the house. So whatever you're doing, I don't want you to do it anymore. She's like, come home before I get possessed, basically. And I was like, listen, if I come home and you're possessed and like your head's spinning around, like we're going to have issues. So hopefully you're not. But we've had weird things like that happen. We've had doors open and close, lights turn on and off, footsteps, that kind of stuff. My dog will go and like stare at the staircase sometimes and growl, or she'll like stand up and like wag her tail like she's playing with somebody. So it's all fine. Nothing too bad here. So
yeah. Good Lord. Yes. Well, I mean, I'm living with, staying with mum and dad and the boys temporarily, because our renting system over here is just absolutely ridiculous with pricing at the moment. And like this is the room, like, because mum bought an antique mirror at a garage sale from our neighbors, and I was only 15 at the time, but I wanted this mirror. Like, I was like pulled to this mirror, and like, it was a bad year, let me put it that way. And it was this freaking room. So, and the weird thing is, like, I was getting ready, I dropped Matthew off at school, and I knew my dad was going to be leaving for work soon. And I had like a knock at the door, and I'm just like, yeah, because I thought, oh, it's Dad coming to say, see ya. And nothing. I'm like, yeah, as in like, come in. I'm busy, just come in. Still nothing. So I'm just like, for crying out loud, I go to the door and there's mum and dad aren't there. So then I'm just like, hello? Nothing. Then I go out and mum and dad like in the dining room, and I'm like, did either of you just knock on my door? No. And I went, okay.
All right then.
No worries.
It's those dang mirrors. Well, that's like Courtney started the haunted mirror selfie club, taking selfies in all the mirrors and all the haunted locations now.
Yes. I love that she does that. That's really, really cool.
It's been fun.
Okay, so have any of you guys on the chat got any more questions for Steve before I let him go? Because it's late for Steve.
Yeah, you guys are in the future.
We sure are.
Tomorrow,
and the weather is fine and sunny.
There you go.
Yeah, it's been raining like freaking buggery, and it's just
it rained today. I think it's supposed to be nice tomorrow, so that'll be good at least. It was so hot in Indiana. Oh my god, it was so hot. It was like
good. The temperatures have been ridiculous over there.
It was like 100 degrees every day we were there. It was awful.
What's that in Celsius? Is that like 40 or something?
Yeah. It was. I mean, it was like, I was like, I'm never coming here in August again, ever. Too hot. We're gonna go in like April next year or May or something.
Yeah.
That's stupid hot. See, Gina knows, she was there. It was disgusting.
Yeah, like I mean, I'm over winter, and it's the beginning of spring, and I just want spring. So please, winter, bugger off. But then every single time I say that, when it starts getting too hot, it's like, autumn, can you hurry up?
That's like, I knew I was complaining in Indiana. I'm like, but I know in like 2 months it's gonna be like 30 degrees. I'm gonna be like, I hate this.
Yeah. Hang on a sec. Daniel's asking, ever found a spirit when no one else knew there was anything there? That's a good question, Daniel.
Yeah, that's actually a good question. So the first place that we investigated as a group here back in like 2010 was the Historic Society in my hometown, and nobody had ever done a paranormal investigation there. It's just like a little house museum for the Historic Society. Nobody really paid attention to anything like that. It's an old house. I mean, an old land, but nobody had gone in and looked for it. So they were like, sure, you can come in at night and sit here in the dark if you want, you weirdos. That's fine. But like, nothing, like, we don't think you're going to get anything. We're like, all
Don't
right.
you
So
love
we
it when
came in and
people
we
look
brought,
at us like we're weird? Like,
yeah, they're like, if you want to sit here at night in the dark, we're like, yeah. They're like, okay, that's strange. So we went and did that, and we actually ended up catching a lot of EVPs. So we've had doors open and close on us there. So now they're all like, oh, okay, crap, there is stuff here. Like, we didn't even know. So that was kind of cool. But I think that's the only time we've really run into it. A lot of places, you know, everybody knows now, and that's why they go there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's awesome. All right. Well, everyone, I've got, I think Janie has been putting some of Steve's links in the chat. But yes, you can go and follow him over on IG at Steve BRODT. And it's at Haunted Nights events.
Yep, all one word, Haunted Nights events.
Yeah, and then there's the Saratoga County Homestead as well. Oh, and is it SGF or SFG? SGF.
SGF Paranormal on Instagram.
Yes. Yeah. So, do you have a PayPal that you like take donations to?
I have a PayPal that I use for Haunted Nights, but that's just for people buying tickets and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah. So, yeah, thank you so much for for taking the time to come on and chat. It's been awesome, like just talking to you about all these different things. It's really cool. And yeah, like, one of my good friends, Kim, who's Electric Pagan, she's, on that side too. So we'll definitely be coming over. And I've told Courtney
there you go.
and Amanda, make sure there's just a couch.
That's it.
And oh, we good.
Well, thank you for having me on. It's been a blast. I've been looking forward to it. We've scheduled it a while ago, so I'm glad we finally got to do it. It was a ton of fun.
Yeah. No, it was good. And I'll have to try and like make more of your IG lives for sure.
That time difference.
Yeah, the time difference. And like I'll be in the middle of editing and then I'll get on my phone and go, oh damn, it's live.
We'll be up. We'll be up there this Sunday night, so it'll be Monday morning for you. We'll be up there. So.
Yes. Oh, okay. Yes.
There we go.
So, what time do you normally go live for everyone in the chat too?
I go live like usually for the investigation, probably like 9 o'clock at night here. So whatever time it is there now, like an hour ago. So.
Well, for me, because you're 12 hours behind for me.
9 in the morning.
So 9. Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, Steve. And yes, thank you everyone for joining us in the chat. And it was just awesome. So we will see you on the next episode, which I think, yes, I've got Isaac and Megan from Hidden in the Shadows podcast coming on next time. So yeah, that should be good. And it's funny because they invited me back on their podcast for another thing. And I said to them, well, I was going to ask you if you wanted to come on mine. So they gave me 1 week and then they're in the next week. So it was quite amusing. That's it. All right. So we'll catch you all later, everyone.